Welcome to your Unit 4 Just-in-Time training. I hope that you find the topics in this training helpful as you begin planning your instruction for Unit 4. Thank you so much for being here today. In Unit 4, students should continue the development of their problem-solving skills. At this point in the year, first graders should have been introduced to all of the problem types which they are expected to master. As they begin to show mastery of the first grade problem types, students should be introduced to the start unknown and compare problem types shown here. Problems in which the start amount is unknown are often the most difficult, especially for direct modelers, because students do not know how many counters to put down to begin modeling the problem. These problems are not expected to be mastered in first grade. Rather, they are expected only to be introduced and explored. Developing fluency with addition and subtraction basic facts continues in Unit 4 with a focus on the making 10 strategy. This strategy is also known as the up and over 10 or bridge to 10 strategy. Making tens can be used on any basic fact that has a sum greater than 10, which is about a third of the basic addition facts. That makes this an extremely useful strategy. In order to be successful with this strategy, students must first be confident with combinations that make tens because it involves decomposing one of the numbers in such a way that they can make a 10. For example, students solving 6 plus 8 might see that 8 is 2 away from 10, therefore they take 2 away from 6 to get to 10, and then add on the remaining 4 to get to 14. Double 10 frames can help students visualize the making 10 strategy, so it is conceptually meaningful and not just a memorized procedure. For example, if you cover two 10 frames with a problem like 6 plus 8, students can physically move or visualize the movement of two counters from the 6 to the other 10 frame. Ask questions like, how many moved? How many are left in the unfilled 10 frame? What happened to the 6? After students have found a total, have students share and record the equations that represent their thinking. Now I want to take a minute to clarify the expectations built into the standards 1MBT 4, 5, and 6. Let's look at some sample problems and think about how they relate to these standards. Here we have 6 problems. Some of these problems illustrate skills that first graders are expected to master, and some of them exceed the expected standards. Take a minute to identify which problems fall within the expectations for first grade. One MBT 4 states that students should add a 2-digit number and a 1-digit number, and a 2-digit number and a multiple of 10. 1MBT 6 states that students should subtract multiples of 10 from multiples of 10 within 100. 1MBT 5 states that students should be able to find 10 more or less than a 2-digit number, but it specifically states that they should be able to do this mentally. This skill relies on a strong understanding of place value and can be practiced regularly with number sense routines and 100 chart activities. The other two problems, which I've crossed out, exceed the expectations for first grade. Though it is not unreasonable to expect that some first graders will be ready to use numbers like these in problem solving and should be allowed to do so, it is also important to point out that students do not need to master number sets such as these in order to master the standards at first grade. The standard 1MD4 calls for students to organize, represent, and interpret data in up to 3 categories. At first glance, it might seem like this standard addresses a topic that requires direct instruction, but let's take a look at some sample work from a classroom in which the students were given the opportunity to be creative and develop their own ideas about data displays initially. In this classroom, the students collected whole group data about what pets each child had at home, and the teacher typed up a list which she presented to the students. She challenged them to look at the list and create a display that would show others what they thought was important. You can see here a few different strategies that the teacher then used to generate a discussion about the critical qualities of a categorical data display. In this case, there are several categories, but first graders are only expected to work with up to 3 categories. Once a simple bar graph is made, it is very important to take time and ask questions. For example, what do you notice about our class and our pets? Or how many more dogs than cats? I think that pretty much covers the key points in Unit 4. Thanks again for taking the time to listen in today.